Hello, everybody.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, good evening. So, we could probably do a little introduction. Maybe I would first like to introduce Deepa because, for those of you who attended our first webinar, which was 2 Fridays ago, Lumiere is a beautiful company, and the lovely part of it is that its line is light and insight. And for me, that's a very deep and very beautiful line, and it kind of describes Deepa in many ways. I think she is somebody who is really helps people to mine insights, not about business only, but about themselves, and is a really person who really loves to spread light, and as she says in her own words, likes to connect people. So Deepa and I, as Lumiere and Aquasale, are jointly hosting the series of webinars, aptly called, and let me put on this aptly called Leadership Journeys. Oops, I think I need to share my screen. Sorry. Um, I think that is, I forgot to. Okay, so Rohan, you need to allow me to share my screen. So, aptly called Leadership Journeys through Sailing. Um, Rohan, can I? Yeah, perfect. And today is a wonderful session called At the Helm Transition and Leadership by none other than Sandeep Kapoor. And for me, Sandeep represents this movie. Whenever I meet him, I say he's really an officer and a gentleman. Sandeep has been through a long career, distinguished career in the services, and also now is a very senior executive with a leading investment bank. So from the services to a successful career in corporate India, we are, but most importantly, Sandeep is here because I think from a very young age and right up to now, he sails the high seas. So an officer and a gentleman on the sea. And as we start today, I want to say that I think those of you had the pleasure of seeing that video. Sailing is a beautiful sport. The wind is your medium. The boat is how you get there. And today, AquaSail has been started by Shakil Kudroli, and it's his vision, his mission, and like I said, it's his obsession to get all of us to sail and to really take out the powerful metaphors that you get from sailing to help people to see that and feel that in their life and in business. And hence, leadership journeys through sailing is an idea that we are taking forward during this period of lockdown. But we've been using it very effectively in all our team building programs. And so now over to Sandeep. He has most certainly been somebody who has been very successful as a service person, corporate India, and I think most importantly, just in life. And I think it's because he sailed all kinds of seas. It's not just the smooth, happy sunset sailing, but some very tough conditions. And I'm going to ask him, and I think Deepa and I are going to engage in a very deep conversation, which I hope you will all find useful about what his journey has meant to him, and how sailing has played a role. So over to Sandeep.
Hi, Zia. Thank you very much. Firstly, thank you to my lovely hostesses and thank you for having me here on your second one for the series. So, a very quick introduction. I've been sailing for the last 40 plus years, and it's something which I truly believe has got me where I am. That's been my passion. I've pursued it wholeheartedly, and I think it's get, helped me mold myself, help me engage myself, mold myself, reflect within. It's given me all of those various opportunities and be close to nature, and probably has made me who I am today. At the very young age of 16, I went to the National Defense Academy, trained for 3 years, and then another year at the Indian Military Academy at Dehradun. And since then, I put in another 22 years in the army. So I put in all of 25 plus, close to 26 years before I had stepped out of the army. So it was literally a lifetime in itself. must very happily say I was sailing before I went to the NDA. I sailed a lot through the National Defense Academy at Khadakwasla. I continued to sail when I was with the Corps of Engineers and the Indian Army right through. The government was very supportive. The Corps itself has been leading on the yachting front. So it's been really a pleasure to serve. And then I stepped out and I realized that there were so many things that I had learned in my journey there. There was so much that sailing had offered me. And I could see that my transitions were getting easier. My leadership journey was easier. While there was a lot that I had learned in the army, it forced myself to ask me that question: what is it that I have different from all of the others who were in the army with me? And we all underwent the same training. And what kept coming back to me that the difference was sailing. I saw transitions being easier. I saw my leadership journey being a bit different. And I've looked at that and reflected upon that several times in my career. I've gone back into solitude on my long sails just by myself for hours under the sea looking at the stars. And I've asked myself that. And I think it is sailing that's made the difference. It is the sea, it's the love for the water, and the fact that one pursued it wholeheartedly. There was no other agenda when we did that. It was just to enjoy the sea, to race harder, to be more competitive, and to do better.
Great. So, Sandeep, I think what we could do, if that's okay with you, since we know you quite well and we've shared so much, if I look at even your sailing career, you've been one of the few people who've had many dimensions. You've actually done ocean crossing, sailed on a kind of boats which can go around the world. You were part of the Trishna expeditions. You've also been a racer, competitively sailing nationally and internationally, and racing small boats and dinghies is a very different ball game altogether. And of course, you've done the wonderful harbor sailing in Bombay, racing for fun, for competition, and as we say, sailing is a sport where you can start very young and carry on forever almost. So, could we maybe talk about these different aspects of your sailing experience and then link them back? Would that be a great way to take this forward?
Yeah, absolutely, Zia. I think that's fantastic. And we could start first with maybe the Trishna and the long distance sailing first, and then move on to competitive if that's good with you.
Yeah, great. So why don't you share with people? And we got some lovely pictures of you with Krishna. So what we do is maybe when you talk about it, and then after that we can share those pictures so it sort of comes alive. So when you sail on a long distance journey and a voyage, maybe you could share with everybody what do you need and how do you get there, and then probably relate that back to the business place, and just to give a perspective, because I don't know how many people here actually have been on a boat and know how to sail a little bit on how large the boat is compared to the sea, and the depth of the ocean, and what happens with the kind of crew, and what are the challenges you face out there.
Sure, Zia. Thank you so much for that. So, Trishna was the first Indian boat to circumnavigate. Really grateful to the Corps of Engineers and our forefathers who thought about it, went and bought that boat. It was bought by the Sapper Adventure Foundation. And Jan K.S. Rao was the skipper when they sailed around the world from 1985 to 1987, setting just such an important milestone for the maritime journey of this country. I was fortunate to learn sailing with Colonel Shekhar, who took time out to teach a lot of us on that boat. He took people out sailing, he took them on expeditions, and the first one that I did as a permanent member in 96, 97 was with General Bassi. The first hole, we spent almost a year repairing, maintaining, and preparing the boat for the voyage. And at that time, one wasn't clear, is this going to pay off? Why do we need to do all of this? The boat wasn't in great shape. We went to the naval dockyard, we changed the engine, we worked with our own hands, we stripped every single thing on the boat. And then we went ahead and then refurbished it. We knew what everything is where it is. The boat is just 36 feet long. So she's a fantastic boat. She's a Swan. Swans are like the Rolls Royce in yachts. This was an old boat. It was purchased in 90, it was built in 1970 as Gunnever of Sussex, and then was sailed down to India in 1984. It underwent a refurbishment and then sailed around the world from 85 to 87. And so by the time I sailed on it in 1996, the boat was 26 years old.
Wow.
We sailed out and we were hit straight away by a storm. But the reason is that we were so confident, we knew what is where, how to deal with it, and we knew the capability of the boat. We were well prepared, but we had still never been in a storm. So the next 72 hours for each of us was very rough. No one knew where we were. We were completely out of communication. And we got out of it. We were able to recollect our thoughts. The Navy had to sail out an entire ship to take care, to just check out where we are. And by the time the ship reached us, the storm was behind us, and we actually invited the captain who came on board just to speak to us. And we asked him that we actually told him we really don't need anything, and we would just rather continue the journey. But that was the confidence, the preparation that we had gone with.
Wow.
That
Sandeep,
was
what a
that was a,
powerful sharing. Yeah.
that was a picture of Krishna. I don't know whether people could see it and the storm. Yes, Deepa, you had something. Please go ahead.
So thank you for having me as your co-host. Like I said, I'm the one who is learning the most from these lessons, both from the sea, because as someone who can appreciate it from a distance, I'm getting some first-hand feel. And that video was most powerful and moving. And Sandeep, what an honor to be here with you today. You've talked about a very important term, which is really the whole preparation that went when even when you didn't know why that preparation was important. And I can I'd like you to shed a little light on this need to be ever prepared, which is also a Girl Guide motto, something I know and resonate with. So tell us a little bit about that, and how is it, can you link with that preparation and how it came in so handy when the storm hit? Maybe you want to tell us a story there.
So thank you, Deepa. So the preparation, what we had done, we knew where everything is. We had prepared for every eventuality. We had put in every spare. We knew it has a small engine. It's got batteries for all the systems. It's got navigation equipment. We had fitted each of it with our hands. We knew how everything works. For some reason, the radio set did not work for the first 2 or 3 days. We were not in a state to repair it. We continued to, you know, carry on sailing because that was not getting disturbed in any way. We had several suits of sails, the larger ones, which could be like 30 to 40 square meters for when the winds are lighter. And when we hit the storm, we sometimes carry a small trysail, which is less than 1 square meter, just so that we can keep her in position and keep the boat moving. A larger sail could risk you into turning over or the boat getting filled with water, which would absolutely be disastrous. When the storm hit us, the confidence and the preparation level, what it does is it allows you to be able to react in a manner as if you've done it all your life because of the visualization, because of the preparation that you've gone through, and you're in the moment at that time. There's no fear. Your reaction, your ability to be able to maneuver through that takes over. So there was a huge learning in that, and everybody performed really well at the time.
So that must be split second decision making, right? At that time.
Absolutely. So you barely get, sometimes if you're lucky, you could see a storm arriving in 4 5 minutes. If there's not been any other warning, you see dark clouds and you see it coming, and you know you're going to get hit in maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And in that much time, you have to take all the action. You have to put your large sails down, you have to put a smaller sail up, you have to move out anything else that's on your deck. If you're not already wearing a harness, and if you're not clamped onto the boat, you just quickly need to get that done as well. So it's a lot of things, and there's a set drill that one would follow and get right.
So, I think the other thing is, Sandeep, like you were talking about the fact that when you have to transition from anything to anything, you really do try to prepare. But at the end, when you actually get into it, nothing fully prepares you, and yet you have to go through it. So, anything that you can share, perhaps linking this whole thing, how this prepared you, maybe from your journey, from these services to corporate India, or any other way that you feel this really helped you.
So you're absolutely right, Ziad. Whatever preparation you do in peacetime or war is an absolutely different scenario. We cannot envisage what's going to happen there. Similarly, at sea, when you're there and when a storm hits you, it's very different from what you can imagine. So we
Yes.
had another experience when in the next expedition, when I was the skipper and we had sailed off from Gaul, we were hit by several squalls. We had the wind and the tide both against us. We had like 6, 7 meter high waves going up to 10 meters. Every day in a 24-hour cycle, we were moving a lot, but we were getting pushed behind and we weren't able to cover even 4 to 5 nautical miles a day, as if we were just getting pushed in the reverse direction by the wind, by the tide, by all the forces. Lot of our crew was seasick, so we initially had only two of us who were okay. Then we had one more person who became better, got his sea legs in the next 2 to 3 days. It took about 8 to 10 days for the balance of the crew to come on, and it was more about just helping each other, supporting each other. The people who needed rest, that was what they needed at that time. They were not fit enough to be on the boat and do their watches. So it's important to support each other. These transitions, it's not the same for everybody. I may have a different transition from somebody else, and it could be because of several reasons. It could be because of preparation, it could be because of mental ability, it could be just because something is happening physically at that time which is not okay. So it's got to be different for everybody, as long as we realize that we need to support people who need it at that time. There needs to be camaraderie, team spirit, and helping each other. That's the attitude that we need.
And I think in today's world, we really have to face. I mean, today we have the COVID situation. I mean, you didn't even have time to prepare. But other times, people do, organizations prepare for, let's say, a structured transition in technology. And yet, when people get into it, and so taking your team along with you in a period of transition is something that probably a good leader has to think about, since the world is so dynamic today. Any thoughts?
Uh, Absolutely, Zia. I think it is critical. So, firstly, when the transition hits you, you are definitely distraught at what's happened. It's very important at that time to share with your team and get to hear what they are saying as well. You don't need to be a problem solver. Really, it's about asking the team, because, especially in what I do and what I've learned, there are subject matter experts, and
Yes.
we've got to get their opinion before we go ahead and do any actions of any nature. So it's important to hear the team, build the trust, and then decide what you want to do. However, there are times when you need to be decisive. In a storm, there's no time to ask anyone. We need to put the sails down. We need to get everything done. We need a really small trysail up. And then we can think about the rest and see whether we got it right or should we be doing something else. So there are some decisions which are time bound, need not wait for anyone. That's when any leader needs to step up. I would say every team member needs to step up. And whether that goes right or wrong, that's what a good team does. They back the person who took that decision rather than trying to question, because there was no time there. It's all about decisiveness, which then gets created.
Great. Um,
Zia, may I ask Sandeep something about the transition again? We are
yes.
on transition. Sandeep, learning is such and unlearning are such critical facets of transitioning, and you've made the transition several times. And tell us a little bit about that malleability that you've built in. How did you get this way? Were you always this way? Did you learn this along the way to be open and learningful? Uh, what are some of your points that you'd like to share with our audience about staying on the edge of learning?
Thanks, Deepa. That's such an interesting question. I think learning is all about unlearning. As we learn more, we get stiff in the mind about that's how a thing needs to be done. So whenever we need to move to new dimensions and think of different things, it's absolutely essential to unclutter the mind and keep it as simple as it is. And I'll just transition here to some of the competitive sailing and what we've seen from there. I started sailing really young. I was 10 or 11 years old. I sailed in a single hander called the Optimist. I sailed the national championship with the juniors in under 15. I sailed several club level events. While I was at the NDA, sailed couple of national championships in different classes of boats, and then went on to represent the country, sail in enterprise, lasers, sail the Asian championships, world championships. what I realized that the basics don't change. The whole routine that you set up really doesn't change whether you're sailing at a club level championship or you're sailing at a world championship. So it's so critical that the learning that you've had needs to be correct, and you need to continue to learn in that. And should you want to step out and do a transition, you certainly have to see what is it that was very essential for what you did, and what are the new things that you would have to learn going out. And for an example, if you're stepping out of the army, the hierarchical system is absolutely akin to the army. Hierarchical system, the word sir, just in some sense, there is a whole lot of regimentation, and there's a belief that we trust our seniors. We're not supposed to ask questions. We're just supposed to obey, and that's the way army is being built. However, when you go out, it's a collective responsibility. It's an equal environment, whether you're the managing director there or whether you're an analyst or associate. They have some fantastic ideas and they have the same power to speak up. So it's important to unlearn some of the things you learned there. And how do you make it equal? How do you make it equal for everyone to participate? If you carry your ranks, then it actually, people feel afraid to ask you questions. People may not be that open with you. So one of the learnings I had, that it's not essential to carry the brass on your shoulders when you step out. You first got to become one in the team. Once you're a person who belongs to the team and build that trust, people will come out and be more open with you, and you'll be able to lead it as well.
Sandeep, just to help the people to understand the difference between a large boat like Trishna and a dinghy sailing and a little bit of racing, maybe we could explain that difference. I don't know how many participants out here are sailors. So would you like me to maybe um, walk? Ah,
Sure,
does
Zia,
it?
I think a few pictures would help.
Yes. So this is your Krishna, and
So this is one of our
anything
happy
you?
celebratory
Yes.
moments. I can see a few stalwarts there with Jan Basi, who is the skipper, Colonel Shekhar, Brigadier Chaudhry, who was the manager of the Round the World as well, Colonel Bajpai, and myself. I'm on the right if you can't recognize me with my beard. So we
I
are
don't
just
recognize
celebrating.
you. And this is a stormy sea out there, huh? So you really
So we had
obviously just got out of a storm.
Yes, we had just got out of the storm, and then we wanted to quickly celebrate before the next one hit us. And one of the happy moments on the boat.
And looks like you're going into bad weather.
Yes, so bad weather. It's been raining, and we're all wearing our oilskins and to stay safe. Still a happy moment. You can see, in spite of all of what lies ahead and what's gone behind, we are all in the moment there, happy and smiling. But this nature itself can be furious. It can be very unforgiving. So you've got to learn to be one among the nature rather than fight nature. So that's the adaptability that comes in, and that's also very important for a good leader, very important for transitions as well.
Embracing that journey irrespective, right? I mean, enjoying the journey, whether it's rough or not. I think it requires a whole different attitude. So here you are. I think you're being commemorated. And any little story around this moment, Sandeep?
These are one of the happiest moments. We have just completed the expedition where we went around SAARC and ASEAN countries. I think the year is 2000. It was the millennial year, with the governor of Maharashtra and a lot of senior dignitaries. Just so much happiness that we completed the job. We had no mishaps whatsoever, and some wonderful stories to share. And definitely, one book is How to Build a Boat, how to stay happy, how to live in the moment. I think all of that really helped.
Okay, I'm going to go right back to let people see you so that they can really enjoy listening to you talk. I think we are supposed to look at what a dinghy boat looks like, and I think it'd be great if you talked about Krishna being really a very very small boat. Um, ouch. Okay, Krishna being a very small boat in the large ocean, but you've actually raced in even smaller boats. So maybe you could explain that to people, and so that they can really understand that difference, and then we can talk about what you learned from competitive racing.
So Trishna was an ocean-going yacht, which was 36 and a half feet long with 10 and a half feet at its widest at the beam. And it is self-sufficient in every way and can go out and race. However, the smaller dinghies are meant to just go out into the harbor, race, and come back. So a small boat like an Optimist uh, is just a boat which is like a tub. It's a small tub, 6.5 feet long. And that's what it is, with a very small sail, taking a young child, could be 8, 10 years old, could be 12 years old. And if you look at this boat in front, that's an Enterprise. It's a two-man boat, and I think that's NDA Khadakwasla, and that's my wife with me. We are racing at the National Inland Water Championship. We've had some really enjoyable races. That's a 14-foot long dinghy with two sails. And yeah, so you can see some action happening there as well.
So maybe you can share your one great racing experience.
Yeah, one of my most memorable racing experiences is from the year 2000, or is it 2001, early January, from Sydney. We sailed the Sydney International Regatta. We went to a sailing club called the Woolhara Sailing Club, and we managed to reach early morning after a long 20 plus hour flight, got into the sailing club, got a boat on charter, which we had already tied up for, managed to rig it up. There were two of us from India, Rajesh Chaudhary and myself, who were sailing there. And we went out into a new harbor to sail our first race. As usual, we were not there on early enough for several reasons. And we managed to get ourselves a few bananas. It was really blowing out there, 20 plus knots of wind, which would translate to about 35 kilometers per hour. Huge waves, a completely new harbor, and there were so many sailing courses on the harbor. We had all kinds of boats and dinghies racing there, not just as part of the Sydney International that we were racing, but they were racing from other clubs. There were large boats, 20 people boats. And so it was difficult to know who's where. There was a lot of confusion around. On a windy day, pushing yourself hard. I must have capsized 8 to 10 times, very cold conditions. So the good thing about this boat Laser that I was sailing in, that if you capsized and you got it up again, there was no water in the boat and you could resume almost immediately. But what it did is, you're going into the water and coming out constantly sucked your energy, and so you felt tired. I had no idea how well I was doing. My other competitor, Rajesh, who was sailing with me on another boat, was a very experienced sailor. He was younger than me, he was fitter than me, and the two of us were competing to make sure we got into the team for the Asian Games and maybe did some stuff. And when I finished that race, I thought, oh, today I haven't done well. I'm going to be right behind. I was completely tired and demoralized. And I got back and I learned that I'd actually done very well. I was ahead of Rajesh, way ahead. And this guy went ahead and got us two Asian Games medals subsequently in 2 different years in the same class of boat. So he was a really good sailor. For me, it was such a wonderful experience sailing in foreign waters with some of the best competitors from around the world.
Maybe, just again, when you're preparing for a long voyage is so different, and the challenges are so different. And when you're in dinghy sailing, the short races, there are very many differences. And I'm sure you can share some of this, how different it is when you look back from one race to the other. You're out there, you can sort of make up in the next race. You can look back and learn, but if you look forward, please do share your racing experience. Just one or two things which I think the audience would love to hear about.
So, Zia, the racing and competitive spirit's always pushing yourself to 100%. If you're competing and two of you are going on the same tack, like what we saw, two boats there, you just got to give it 100%. If you are giving it 99.9%, the other boat's going to get ahead and then you have no chance at all. So it's so important in competitive sailing to be pushing everything to the limit. Your equipment, your body, your fitness, your preparation level, just the work on the boat, how you manage to do the drills, what's it that, so there are drills, then you would break them up into smaller parts, get well with those, start practicing them slowly, the parts, and then as you start to tie them in together, you would get faster and better. at doing those drills, even if you're sleeping or even when you're at home. So it's literally, it becomes an obsession because you're continuing to push the envelope high because you're competing. And small things make a difference in competitive sailing. Obviously, you prepare, you go out there, and most days it's only one or two people who are winning or who are in the top one or two. You come back feeling, I can do better. You failed at what you did after so much preparation. So that's again a great learning there. You come back, you think about what you could have done better, make your lists, try and do that better for the next day, put in an entire series, go over what you could have done better, go back home, prepare, do more physical work, do more training, prepare a better boat, practice hard when you're on the water, and there's a continuous learning. And that's been a thing that I've taken away from sailing into what I've done in life. And so I've constantly tried to push myself to get better against all odds. Another very interesting thing I learned is I've come across a lot of sailors right through, I mean, in a 40 plus year old journey. I've seen people who were more talented than me, who were possibly better than me in several parts of sailing. But it's not as if you saw a few years later and they weren't around anyway. For several reasons, some of them gave up, some of them didn't feel it was as enjoyable. So it's important to have the passion, it's important to have fun in what you're doing, and it's important to persevere. We'll all get our breaks if we keep doing something. So that Michael Gladwell's the 10,000 hour success is around the corner. You've just got to make sure, like in Outliers, put in your 10,000 hours in whatever you want to do. And there's no reason why you will not succeed with it.
So to go back to change, before we move to the last leg of your sailing experience, when you're in a small dinghy or a small boat or racing competitively, even then, if you look at that video, there is almost every moment that you're actually adjusting your sail and adjusting your body weight and reacting and responding. It's a very different kind of challenge. Am I right? And how would what are the lessons that taught you that you can share?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, you can't sit back on your laurels. You can't sit back and think you've got it right, and so it's going to continue. Life is changing every minute. It's so important to live in the present and not sit on your laurels and what you did yesterday. And that's one of the key things to remember about transition. No one really cares what you did yesterday.
Yeah.
You're into something new. How well you come in and adapt, how well you fit in. It's important for you to fit in before you can make a change or do anything. So it's so important to live in the moment, to become a part of it all, even if it means it's an obsession. Ask a lot of questions. If you don't understand something, keep it simple. Just ask, I don't get this. And you're going to see that more often than not, somebody will step up and tell you what it really means.
Yeah. And then go ahead to the next race. Don't worry about the last one.
Sandeep, may I?
Absolutely, Deepa.
There is this is a very social kind of an activity. You were there in Australia, completely new setup, and you've done so much of travel all around the world. So tell me, what is it like? How does this being like a global citizen, learning literally from every
Port.
I think every nationality that you've raised and every place that you've been to, how has that contributed somewhere in your journey as a leader,
That's a great question, Deepa, because I think I was really fortunate. People in the armed forces don't get an opportunity so much to interact outside of our own fraternity. It's a very close knit fraternity, very tight community, and there's a lot of good stuff that I picked up and learned there. But it's thanks to sailing that I was able to interact with participants, coaches from around the world, understand their philosophies, understand how to race better, get mentored by a lot of these people. And absolutely, that really changed my outlook to life. Sometimes I think it even overexposed me from an army perspective, but it completely changed my perspective because there was so much openness to learning. There was so much one could do with it that it was important to probably just absorb it. And once you absorbed all of it, then that kindled something in you to say, I want to do more.
And I think you and Shakil did a campaign together. You want to share a little about that?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, were you saying something, Deepa, as well?
Yeah, I did want to talk about a little bit on this wearing your laurels lightly, and I think for audiences, the point that you talk about, especially in these times where it's like, the whole rules and the way we've lived in this world so far is all getting decimated in a sense, and we're building a future by the day. And then when we talk about a new normal, it's also about taking stock and sort of leaving that core that you've built all these years to sustain you, isn't it? It's really the resilience, the persistence, the perseverance, and all of those things of deep character and values that you've spoken about earlier, all coming in to hold us in good stead as humanity. And I just wanted to sort of leave that thought with all our viewers about what you just spoke about, not carrying that baggage about where we were and what we won.
That's such a good thought, Deepa, because it's important to not rest on our laurels, to keep on moving ahead. And in trying times like this, it's just about surviving. It's about surviving for all of us, whether it's a migrant worker or an entrepreneur who's doing extremely well, or things have completely changed for them. So sometimes this sport, which helps you to actually every day overcome your fears, overcome your failures, helps us to do well in these conditions. And even in the COVID situation, we have seen the resilience has come from the people who are being trained in this manner, who've had the opportunity to live these kind of lives and have that kind of experiences. So thank you for that thought. And see, let me move on to Shakil.
Because
So
then we are
Shakil,
going to move on to the next phase of your dimension of sailing. So we move from racing to cruising and racing in the harbor.
just give me a second. I seem to have lost my screen.
No, you're
Okay.
there. We can see you.
Okay. So Shakil, I met Shakil in 1983 when I was sailing my first junior nationals in under 15. Shakil came as the coach for the Sea Cadet Corps along with two other people. That's when I first met him in his capacity as coach. We kept interacting at the national level events at all of the places, and I've always held him in very high esteem. His great win when in Andamans in 1989, he won 6 out of the 7 guns, which is he was first in 6 out of the 7 races. He and Sumit Patel went and won that nationals in great style, went and got India the first gold in Asian Sailing Championships overseas in China that year in the enterprise class, and then 2 World Championship silver medals in both overseas. Absolutely phenomenal track record and a fantastic sailor. So very privileged to be associated with him. So Shakil asked me in 1997 that would I like to campaign with him for the Asian Games. We built a new boat. We had the World champions flown in to help us train better. We put in a lot of time, money, effort, training, and racing. Unfortunately, we didn't really win the trials that year for several reasons, and I won't go back into what those details were. But we were not the first team out when the results were there, and we didn't participate in that Asian Games. Even today, we speak about it. We were good enough to go and get the gold that year at the Asian Games. However, we didn't make the team for several reasons. But the association itself has only gone stronger. I absolutely respect him and his ideas. I have a lot of time for Shakil. And again, in my journey that I've traversed, he's one important key figure who's helped me be where I am. I could even call him, apart from being a very, very close friend, a mentor in so many things. So one has several mentors.
Okay. Thank you.
Zia and Sandeep, we have Brigadier Tetwal Singh Chaudhary, who's also joined in case we want to have him on our panel to say anything.
Sure. He's known, I mean, people do know him as Tipsy. So Tipsy, sir, welcome. Great pleasure to have you here as well.
Are you unmuting him or?
Zia, we can continue maybe when
Yeah,
you get to the question and answers. You
okay,
probably
so
get.
now we are going to move to. So let me show. Where were we? We were here. And let's move on to, so let's look at, this is the kind of racing I think Sandeep is talking about. Sandeep, please, you can say whatever, when you're looking at these pictures, if there's something that strikes you. I'll just quickly go through the racing pictures that you have.
So you can't take the water out of a sailor. So after I stopped competitive sailing, we got into these big boats and we do a lot of harbor racing in Bombay Harbor. We are out every Saturday. Those are the beautiful 7.5s of Aquasail, completely matched boats. And there's some very exciting racing that they do week after week with a lot of corporates and run leadership programs.
And this, I just put this in because you said you capsize your laser. I don't have a laser, but just to tell people what it means to capsize a boat for those of you, those who are not there, and you have to get back on. Yes.
Yes, you've just got to straighten it, get back on, and that's another good picture of a few boats racing. That's the boat with spinnaker. So how does it move with that big sail? So on a downwind leg with the wind behind you, you do put in a spinnaker. So that's again the Blazing Surmai, the boat that I race on, and it gives us so much happiness. Friends outside of work, a lot of competition that happens on the weekend, the bonding, de-stressing while being in the nature, and still continuing to improve our skill sets and get sharper at what we love doing. So it's amazing. These Saturday races add so much to our life, and each of us really looks forward to. We get through the week, we race on Saturday, and we are ready to get back next week and work hard for the next few days.
So we've talked to you about long distance racing, facing storms alone in the sea, for days on end, dinghy sailing, or racing at very, very high competitive levels. And let's move over to the other side of racing. And we have some lovely pictures, but we'll show it after you talk about it.
And
So
we have
what
about
does,
5 questions as well, huh? From
yes,
the
absolutely, Deepa, this is something you should ask about because so Sandeep races now every Saturday, but I think there's a lot more stuff they do beyond the racing. But that's a whole other dimension of this wonderful multifaceted sport. So you have a question for him?
I have five from our viewers. There are about
Oh,
5 questions that have come in already. So I'm going to start.
which is, but
Prasad,
should we finish with his thing or you want to?
because we have 15 minutes to the talk
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
So
So
Let's continue. Let's continue with
yes,
the questions, and then we'll weave it in some of that.
okay. So Deepa, you want to ask the questions? If you have them, you're accessing them.
there's a question from Prasad Kulkarni. He says, "Thank you for arranging this session. I've been following Aquasail since its inception. We appreciate Sandeep's view of respecting nature and not going against her." And he's telling us how I dropped my banking job and started a renewable energy company in Mumbai. Can you touch a little on how we regular folks can get into sailing as a hobby?
That's
Okay.
such a good question, Prasad. I will let Zia answer that, but for now, the easy answer is
There's
just
only
get
one.
onto Aquasail. Aquasail
So
and
Prasad
you're
will
going to get
answer that.
sailing.
But the good thing, Prasad, is something that you get at the end of this is that whoever wants to get into sailing, we have a lovely offer at the end of this, just because I think you spent your valuable time and we appreciate that. But I think what Sandeep can touch upon, Sandeep, maybe when you go to your slide which shows Sankalp, it's never too young to start sailing and you're never too old to start sailing. So Prasad, we'll definitely touch upon that. That's a lovely question. It's you could start at the age of, we teach an Aquasail at the age of 7. Sandeep Sankat would have started sailing when he was what, like 1, 0, 2?
No, no.
you know,
So really, the proper sailing, I think he started when he was 9 or 10 because he didn't
but
want
he's
to
been on a
sail. He
boat.
thought, but he's been on a boat, yeah, from when he was very young.
Right. So we'll come to that Prasad. But thank you for that question. It's I think the beauty is maybe Sandeep could talk about the fact that there are different kinds of boats, and when you want to get into learning sailing, it just depends on who you are, why you want to learn sailing, and so you could just pick the right kind of boat for you to make it more meaningful and happy for you. Am I right, Sandeep?
In fact,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Prasad also has another follow-up question where he says, is owning and maintaining sailing equipment expensive? How true or untrue is it in today's times?
So let me take that on, Zia, because
Yeah.
I think that is in some way true. It is not cheap to own. It's more about where you would store the equipment and how would you get it to a water point. I think that's the key problem that one faces with the infrastructure. But having said that, I would not advise anybody to try and own one. It's about enjoying it and going to the right people and learning the skill. Incidentally, I don't own any boats. I just enjoy it. I go out sailing. I make sure the infrastructure that's available, I just use it. So I would just urge everybody to, get away from their inhibitions, get on the water and sail.
Anupriya Kapoor has a lovely question. Does sailing help you in better parenting as well? And we
Okay,
mentioned
but can we hold that question till we come to some pictures? Or maybe I will trigger Sandeep's. That's a lovely question. So, Sandeep, why don't you? We'll go to Anupriya's question. That's a lovely question that you asked. And let me first get Sandeep a little excited about Sandeep, a little bit of sharing on the joy of sailing. Talk about the big boats. I think it answers everybody's question. There's another lovely question there, Deepa. I can't see the Q&A right now, but another person asked about whether it was easier being in the army or sailing. So I think Sandeep can talk about this. But this is beautiful sailing. I love this saying, you're never alone when you're out there in the ocean. Even if you're there, it's the wind and the boat, and you're at least three people. So why don't you talk a little about this, and we go straight to how it makes you a better parent. In fact, I'll show you what a
Absolutely.
lovely parent it makes.
Yeah. Can we just run through the pictures and so whatever you have on some of the
No,
personal
you can
ones?
talk. I wanted to show. Okay, I wanted to
Okay.
show a lovely picture just for Anu's
So
question.
Anupriya, I do think it makes us a better parent. All of these experiences where we are learning, and I think as a parent, we are learning too. We are always learning. You're just so surprised by what your kids come up with. They challenge you, they force you to learn different things. And if you see some of these pictures, and
Look at
that's me with my son there, that of course. That Sankalp learned to sail, tried first avoiding to get into a boat, didn't want to learn to swim because he thought he would have to learn to sail. That's him. That's him. When we just got back, it appears to me that's the in 1997 when Sankalp would have been less than 2 years old, and yeah, so he's been on boats ever since he was very young. I certainly think that bonding with your child through sport is a great way to bond with children because it makes you more of a friend and a comrade rather than just being a parent. So it takes away those lines. So it's definitely helped me. And
yeah,
that's my dad as well, a fun boat behind. We've spent some of our finest moments on the water in and around sailing.
in fact, for those of you who asked this question, so here's a little boat called a fun boat. That's a small dinghy, and it really doesn't cost very much. So boats could cost below a lakh, 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs, 5 lakhs, or it could cost crores. And some of the ways, Prasad, for example, in AquaSail, we believe that even if we do sell boats, a lot of boats to people, but we really tell them to understand why they are buying it and whether it makes sense that they are really going to use it. So before that, expose yourself to boats, different kinds of boats, understand why you're buying a boat, how you're going to use it, how often you're going to use it. So this is a lovely boat. Anybody can sail it. Just get out in it. We've got these boats in Goa and in Bombay, and let's see what it does. I know
Another
Sankar for
picture.
many years, and I think it teaches the kids independence, getting out there, taking risks, but knowing that you have to be safe. I think any kid who's gone sailing knows how important the life jacket is, right? And yet they can go out in the strongest of winds, but they have their life jacket, so they know risk but safety. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah, what an independence it gives children, especially when they go out by themselves. They are in command, in charge of their own boat. They can sail out wherever they want. And it's for a child at 7, 8, 10 years of age to have that independence. That's Sankalp and that's an optimist which is next to him with his boat. They go out, they are in charge, they have no one else they can shift that blame to. They take their own decisions. It really puts them through rigors of life which helps them in the later years.
And I think a lot of parents struggle with this. How do I make my child more responsible? I tell you, when kids go out on a boat, I mean, they realize if they've forgotten to take, close the bungs, or put the pin, and they go out there and realize how much it can impact them. And that is when they learn that whole sense of responsibility, just going out there. And the beauty is that these kids all are able to sail a boat out on their own. At 7 years old, you can teach a kid to take a boat out on his own. And the sense of absolute freedom is so delightful for a child.
Absolutely.
Any
Some
other?
lovely pictures there, Zia.
Yes,
I do think this, all these
lots of
kids have
sailing
done
kids.
so well for themselves, the sailing kids. Each of them has excelled in whatever they have done. And again, going back to the fact that they have done well, they have made good leaders, they have made good citizens, and sailing's played a huge role in where they are today.
Um, for yes, and are there any other questions that we can take up and we can have people asking more? Yeah, you have a question saying, do you think it's easy being a sailor or being in the army?
Well, both are completely different. So sailing for me was never a profession. I always did it as a hobby, whereas I was a professional army man in that sense. I think I take a lot of pride in the service that I did, and it's never going to go away. Even though I've stepped out today, I always look at myself as somebody from the army. So I'm very proud of the fact that I got an opportunity to serve the country. I'll continue to sail because I'm passionate about it. I absolutely enjoy being on the water. And I think it's possible to do both. It's possible to be in the army, to serve the country, and enjoy your passions as well.
Okay. Sandeep, you have a question, which is what keeps you motivated to keep going every day?
Is that for sailing or at work, or what's that for?
I'm assuming just keeping going every day. I guess it's Anu's asking the question, Anupriya Kapoor, the same person who asked about parenting. Hi, Anu.
So thank you, Anupriya. So I think that question is how you're motivated to keep going every day, possibly from the work front. And I do think I'm a very passionate person. I like to do things with a lot of heart, with a lot of passion. I take time, I make sure I enjoy what I do and do what I enjoy doing. So I love my job. And that's the key thing. If you're not in the right place, you just got to move on and do something else. It's so important. Otherwise, you're not going to have fun. So that's what keeps me going every day. I just enjoy what I do.
Yeah, and I
Sorry,
think
Deepa, you had a
sailing,
question?
I think sailing teaches that. I mean, I can also share that I remember the first time I sailed, and it's almost as alive, the feeling today. And the beauty is, ask any sailor, every single time you go out sailing, you enjoy it. So you don't learn to get fatigued. You don't say, oh, I'm doing the same old thing. Or you go out in a boat and it's different every time and you just love it. And I think if you can do that and enjoy it, whether the wind is blowing or not, whether you are getting to where you want to or not, you start enjoying everything about life. Don't you agree, Sandeep? I mean, just going out on the sea every time is so beautiful that you find that you can find beauty in everything you do in life.
Absolutely, Zia. Every time you go on the water, you say these are such a simple pleasure. Just being on the water, it makes you forget every other sorrow or worry that you had that you were carrying. It just freshens you up. That's what is the effect of water and fresh air on you. It literally cleans your soul, if I could use that statement.
Yeah.
And very quickly, it's very powerful. It's so powerful. It very quickly gets you completely open and cleaned up on,
So
from
we have a
inside.
we have somebody who's written a lovely line for you. He says, excellent session, insights and learnings. He says, he's a long distance trekker at the age of 69, have self driven at 100,000 kilometers in India. So, maybe it's lovely to meet people who just like getting out of doors, and sailing is a beautiful sport to engage in, irrespective of fitness, age, or anything. It's just one of those things that opens your mind.
Sandeep, you and Vishaka both sail. So when did that happen? Did she resist initially? Because in golf, you have the concept of a golfing widow. Is there a concept of a sailing widow also in sailing?
So
Get to
I don't
Vishaka.
think I've not heard of that, but Vishaka actually got roped in pretty early. Once we got married, I just took her out sailing, got her to sail a few more events, and we've done a lot of it together. She enjoys being out on the water. I mean, and once my son started sailing as well, it just made so much fun that all of us could be out on the water together. Our entire family, extended family, and friends. One of the key things I try and do is take people out on the water and get them to experience the joy that we experience when we go out. Just share that feeling and allow them to also experience some of that fun together.
And I think all of us enjoy sailing with each other. There was, of course, Shakil and Sandeep. I think sea friends for life. I think the sea really bonds people. I think we've covered all the questions, right, Deepa? Are there
So,
any other
Sandeep, a thought came to my mind that, the sea, when you think of sea and you think of like metal and you think of something which is non living getting corroded. But when you think of people or when you think of preservation of living things, then again it's sea and it's the salt. So I kind of think that maybe what the sea does is keeps that core, that most alive part of you all fresh and well preserved, and all the unessential sort of get, they're redundant. So does I often think of it like that.
So that's such a good thought, and I like to also just give my thought at the end of it. Through Corona, through staying at home, and several things that each of us are experiencing, I think one of the key learnings for me has been that how simple we need to keep life. All we need is sunlight, fresh air, and maybe a couple of meals. 2 meals a day is great. And so if you could do that, that's all that a human being needs. And keep yourself active, keep yourself fit. But really, it's the sunlight, it's the wind, it's just if you can have a good, if you can have water next to you. But it's very, very simple. It's not about the complicated thing. Just see some of those happy pictures of our crew that we race together every Saturday. A happy bunch of people. We have different people coming on the boats and having fun. We have t-shirts, we have logos, we build up the team and meet new people, and we look forward to it week after week.
Yes. In fact, one of the things is if you're on the sea, you realize how little you need actually to survive. And I think that's what sailing teaches. It teaches you to be very careful. Um, so I think it's been a beautiful session. Thank you everybody
Yeah.
for coming. And
Zia, can we have Brigadier Chaudhary if he's there? That's such a beautiful picture. If you just keep that, and if Brigadier Chaudhary is still on it, he was the manager and played a very important role in getting our expedition, the second one, through as well. He managed the first round the world expedition, and he's been quite a father figure as far as Trishna sailing is concerned, apart from General Rao and a couple of other people as well. But since he's on it, and can we just put him on and hear something
So
from him?
Brigadier Chaudhary needs to unmute
Rohan,
himself and put up his video. So he's been
Rohan,
invited to do that. So he needs to do it at his end of unmuting himself and getting his video on. Brigadier Chaudhary, if you can come in, please. So he's unmuted himself, so he'll probably be here with us in a second. There are more questions and things that we may not be able to answer right now, but we're going to give you all of the questions, Sandeep, later, so that you will also have them with you.
Yeah, we can surely answer them even if we were not able to complete it today. And looks like Brigadier Chaudhary is having some technical issues. So Zia, back to you.
I'll just do one thing even before Tipsy. I just want to thank everybody for coming. I want to tell you that what we are doing is we're doing actually two types of series. One is leadership journey, so there will be a lot more of how sailing can help you in life, business. The metaphor of sailing, whether it's the joyful part, whether it's the learning or the insightful part, and we really like people to share more and interact. We also have a whole series coming up, which is just on the magic of sailing. So people sharing about their sailing adventures. We are sharing with you small things, insights on the types of boats, different kinds of boats, not whatever you ever wanted to know about sailing. So we'll be soon launching that. In fact, as we speak this week. So watch this space. And for the person who asked, I think Prasad's question, there are just a lot of kinds of boats, and there are today, at least through AquaSail, access to boating has become easy in India. I would say first sail a boat, figure out what you want before you think of buying one, and do join us. For these ones, we're having it every Saturday. The other sessions are going to happen on different days of the week, and we will be putting it out on Instagram and Facebook. So please do follow us. And hey, what we thought we'd do Is it for those of you who want to actually go sailing when the winds start filling our sails again, when the season lifts, when we're all out of home and out on the sea? We request you to reach out to us, whether individually or corporate, and come and, you know, uh, we have some wonderful offers. And more importantly, because we also want to help with what's happening around, every sale that we are doing, we are donating one ration kit. For any sale, a ration kit for those who are needy. So we're doing all of this, and I really hope to have all of you coming on board and interacting with us. Thank you for joining us, Deepa. As always, I think we both just enjoy being in conversation. And of course, when it's someone, an officer and a gentleman like Sandeep, it just makes it all so much more fun, right, Deepa?
Deepa, you're on mute.
Mute myself, yes. So, what a privilege it's been to be here again with the AquaSail series. And Sandeep, thank you for that extremely insightful session. We need many webinars with you to cover your many facets and your many wins and to know about your future plans, of course, but that will be for another day.
Thank you, both of you. Thank you,
Uh,
Deepa. Thank you, Zia, the lovely
Deepa,
hostesses. Absolutely enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, back to you, Zia.
yeah, no, I just didn't realize there are so many other questions very quickly. So we end the same,
We'll
but if
be,
anybody wants to
we'll
have any questions answered, they can stay and we can answer that. If you,
I think what we can do, Zia, is have all these questions shared with Sandeep and with you for them to be answered because there are a number of questions about corporate life, about sailing, and about.
Yeah, but I'm happy to do it in one line each. So I'll just very quickly go through it. So how does one overcome fear, phobia of water? Can't answer phobia of water. That's a deep question, but I can tell you that one of the things is to go out in a very safe manner. AquaSafe prides itself on taking people out extremely safely. I'm not just saying this, and I would say if you go out on the water, you do get over the fear. We really had this. So the person asking this question again, Anu, you know us. We're happy to talk to you about it. Samina has asked, are women being encouraged to sail? I think we have some great women sailors now today in India. Um, one of them, Sweta, volunteers with us. We have a lot of other people. And I think you have a lot of women, at least here, sailing. And I sail. And I think women don't need encouragement to sail. They're the ones who are pushing their kids to sail and they go out sailing. We have a lot of sailing moms and a lot of moms, in fact, taking families out sailing and planning sailing holidays. Um, Colleges and schools have tied up with sailing. Yes, we've had a lot of people doing that, Zahir, and we are happy if you want to talk about it. We have fantastic school programs, school camps, um, experiences for kids. Satvinder is doing a good option to start the sailing journey. Anything's a good option, but I think we can talk about this offline. There are many ways to start. It depends on why you want to start sailing, who you want to sail, where do you want to sail. Is it just something to go out once in a while and you can start helming, crewing, and do talk to us. And Sandeep, there's a question specifically for you. Do you have a next sailing target, a dream boat to sail, a voyage to make, a race to do? So, you want to give him one quick line?
So, I really don't have a sailing target, but someday I would like to spend years and years sailing from one port to the other and visiting the world using a sailing boat. And I don't mind spending 5 years doing that.
Yeah. But I think that just going out every Saturday is just something, just now is a time, it's de-stressing, it's amazing. So I think Sandeep's been really doing that. Somebody has talked about your very, Meena Bora, about your very positive outlook.
And
And
Zia,
to be
just for
honest,
her, I mean, whenever she's in Bombay, we would love to host her and take her out sailing. So that
please come and
experience
sail
is
a boat.
absolutely was, Auntie. Yes.
Absolutely. And somebody has said you've given him a very insightful session. It gives you time to deep dive into yourself. However, the chaos of corporate life offers an entirely different world. I think it's a conversation to be had. Can't answer it in one line, but honestly, whoever's asked this question, um, I think we at AquaSafe pride ourselves on being able to take the metaphor of sailing and help you to relate it. Just going into sailing, you don't even realize how it actually starts seeping into your subconscious. And the way you look at things is very different. I think it is one of the most powerful metaphors actually for corporate life. How does your leadership go? So there are many questions now. How does your leadership approach different? Sandeep, we send you this question to answer Sagi George. So Sagi, we will answer. Aquasale has branches outside Mumbai. Yes, we have it in Alibag and Goa. And that's it. I think we've answered most of the questions except leadership approach. We'll put you directly in touch with Sandeep. That's a question for him. Happy to answer it. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Deepa. Thank you, Sandeep. Thank
you.
you,
Good
Lumiere
luck.
team, Aquasave team. It's been such a pleasure to be on board. Do come for all our sessions. Come and participate, and we really, really look forward to hosting you actually on the real boat, on the real sea, riding the waves, feeling the wind in your hair, the sun in your face, and the exhilaration of being on a boat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.